Yeah. Uptown. Yeah, yo, we kicking it live. Vince and Stevie D, OWSports podcast is the place to be. Bills Mafia, repping the red, white, and blue, no doubt. With Josh Allen, just stand up and shout. Gang green, coming with that New York flair. Jets in the mix, you know they taking it there. The rivalry is fierce, but they keep it 100. Legends in the making, pressure never stunted. From MetLife to Highmark, bright lights when the night's dark. Touchdown, dreams, steel beams, leave a big spark. Bills and Jets, we clash on the field, but on this podcast, we keep it sealed. Respect for the game, we all in the zone. Vince and Stevie D, we holding our own. So tune in tight, don't miss a beat. OW Sports, where the real ones meet. Sit back.
It's OW Sports, the fastest growing podcast about the Buffalo Bills and New York Jets. You get the best takes, the most engaging interviews, and they are always keeping it real. So sit back, relax, and get ready to talk some NFL. Now here's your hosts, Vince and Stevie D.
And welcome back to another edition of Official Word Sports. I'm Vince. I'm here with my co-host, Stevie D. And we're glad to have you again for what turns out to be what we call New World Order. So we hope you're ready for this one. Make sure you give us a like, give us a subscribe. Make sure you click that button. We appreciate that. And make sure that you're always ready for my man Stevie D. Who knows what's going to come out from Stevie D? It's a new day. So chapter one. We're going to call this one chapter one. But before we get started, my man Stevie D's got something to say. So
yeah, man. It's one of those bittersweet. I wanted to start off talking about the passing of Jets legend Nick Mangold. Actually, he passed Sunday night. Obviously, a lot of people have talked about Nick from Sunday till to today, and it's really our first opportunity outside of our Jets hangar to really kind of talk about Nick and his passing. It was 2 weeks ago, probably now 3 weeks ago, where he sent out a message to Jets fans all over and Ohio State Buckeye fans all over asking for a kidney, and to wake up 2 weeks later to find out that he passed was just devastating, right? And it left me in a daze, like for a couple of days. I mean, heck, we've talked how many times. I just feel like I'm in a monotone state. It's just shocking that he's 41 years old, right, with his whole life ahead of him. And to think that he's gone and he won't be able to see his 4 kids grow up, just a shame. That's how my brother-in-law passed years back from chronic kidney disease, and it's like a slow, painful watch when you don't get a kidney. And it's very slow. Going through that with my brother-in-law, Ernie, rest in peace. Like, it's just right to watch that in the dialysis, but not knowing that Nick was that far gone. Like, he hit it, and from the media, the fans, we had no idea that he was going through it. I'm sure the people in his inner circle obviously knew. Even his close friends that may have been not connected to football knew about it. And just a shame, just an absolute shame. And he was such a, I don't know, because, football's football, but, the stories that I've been hearing and people have been sharing out on social media is about him being a husband and a father, which that's what I'd rather hear first and foremost, not Nick Mangold, the football player, because we already know that about Nick. But it's how he's touched lives off the field, and how he's leveraged his football career to help others. And that's talking about Nick the person. And it's just, man, devastation, right? And I went out, I bought my first offensive line jersey of all time. This is the first time I've ever purchased one. I went out and got a Nick Mangold jersey to celebrate him as best I could. I figured, let me get a jersey. I'll probably buy some of his barbecue sauce, that he had a barbecue sauce line. I'll probably make an order there to, again, to give back to his family. I'm sure they don't necessarily need the money, but just show jet love to Nick Mangold and buy some of his sauce. But it's just it's sad, Vince. Just sad.
Yeah, I was shocked when you told me, right? And I think whenever something like this happens, especially with somebody so young, like for Nick and DeBrickashaw, you remember when these guys were drafted and when they came in, and then for something like that to happen, it doesn't feel right, right? If this was a guy from generations past, you say, well, Father Time caught up. And so it is definitely said. And I think you said it, and I know Rob has put it in there. It's more than football, right? It's about the individual. Definitely prayers go out to his entire family. Um, it's a tough loss, and um, maybe that is something that resonated within the Jet family as a whole, right? Definitely, I know that I saw tweets and posts from former Jets and actually NFL players around, right? So, um, it's definitely a sad time there. And as I said, sometimes it may seem hollow, but it's met in earnest that thoughts and prayers definitely do go out to the Mango family.
Yeah. I will say there was one thing that really upset me, and maybe because I was so sensitive because we just found out 4.5 hours before, but in the Jet press conference, that somebody did not whisper in Aaron Glenn's ear to start off a statement about the passing of Nick Mangold. I thought that was poor by the New York Jets organization all the way through. And I'm not expecting Aaron Glenn to think about that, getting on the press conference right after the game. But I thought somebody from the organization would have leaned on him and said, hey, you may want to start off the press conference talking about Nick Mangold.
Was it said at all during the presser?
Yeah, because the media brought it up. Oh yeah, I should have started with that, is what Aaron Glenn said, and that's where I say like somebody from the organization that's traveling with the team should have probably just knocked on him and said, "Hey, you should leave with Nick Mangold." And that's a
Yeah.
failure of their PR people that are traveling with the team that set up the coach to go up on the podium. Again, because I don't think that's the first thing on his mind, but it should have been on somebody's mind. So I thought the Jets failed on the start of that press conference there. I was really disappointed. But again, can I be nitpicking just because I was really pissed and you know, in the days that we got this news about Nick Mangold, and so maybe I'm just looking to pick a fight at that moment in time because Nick is no longer with us. But you mentioned Nick and DeBrickashaw Ferguson. What I didn't realize, Willie Colon, who was a Jet later on in his career, really finished out his time with the Jets, but he was drafted by the Steelers, was in that same draft, and then played with Nick at the end of Nick's career. And listening to him talk on the Jets press conference, I mean, he was shaking. And Rex Ryan, man, he broke down on
Rex
ESPN.
lost it. Yeah.
Man, I mean, I had the chills when he was talking about it. Um, and I mean, that's right from the heart, and right, and that raw emotion from Rex. And there was a clip that somebody busted out about Nick and saying, Nick got that new. It was part of Hard Knocks in 2010 with Rex Ryan. There's Nick Mangold letting that big contract get to his head. And I went to line last night at Taco Bell, and who was right behind me at Taco Bell? Nick Mangold, right, spending that money, right. And so, you see that clip and just who he was. He was like a gentle giant. He had that humor about him. I mean, Bart Scott talked about him, how they used to jaw back and forth. Obviously, Nick being on the line and Bart Scott being a linebacker, they were always jawing back and forth at practice. And Bart, chimed in and said some things. And yeah, that was another line that he talked about, right? That he wanted to play injured, not hurt. He was injured and was out. I remember that season where when Rex got fired and Nick, because that's really what ended Nick's career, just about, right. He was just getting broken down towards the end, and just it tells you about the person, right? Like, I can't play, but I'm going to play. He didn't play, but just speaks to the character. So, just it's tough for the fans, and I say for the fans, right? Obviously for the players, but really this it's a lot to the fans, and just the outpouring of love that I've seen on social media, and how he's affected people. So, rest in peace, Nick. You will be missed by your family and friends, and obviously the Jets fan base and everybody within the Jets organization. So,
And CBD, you on Jets Hangar, that's the Facebook group for OW Sports, but geared towards the Jets. You've had a lot of people comment and either share stories or just comments, pictures and things about Nick Mangold as well, right?
yeah, a lot of comments. A lot of posts kind of go that viral state, but it did, and just a lot of people that commented and shared it, and getting a lot of comments from people that are not a part of Jets Hangar, but listening to the stories where some people said, "Hey, I grew up 2 houses down from Nick Mangold, in New Jersey where he lived," and people commenting about when he grew up in Ohio State and stuff like that, and it was pretty neat to see all that. And thank you, Rob. It was really neat to see those tributes coming in for a guy that's just kind of revered. But the last thing I'll comment on now, now I kind of understand why he didn't become a coach, like an O-line coach, because he's been dealing with this since he came into the NFL. And I bet you because it was progressively getting worse, he couldn't commit to the schedule, to be a coach, because he would have made a fantastic coach. Because whenever he came as a visitor, the players have said, "Man, what a boost he gave us!" Talking about blocking and how to read things. So I think he would have made a fantastic coach if given the opportunity with his health. I think he would have been a really great offensive line coach, and obviously that can't happen. So.
Okay. So as we move forward, Rob asked when he first popped in, he said, "New World Order. Why are you guys calling it New World Order?" Well, Rob, it's a new day. It's a new day. You see both Stevie D and myself. We have smiles.
It's my first smile in 8 weeks, Rob. All right, my first smile in 8 weeks.
Rob, hold on. We have community that's coming down. We have balloons that are coming up, Rob. It's a new day. All right. Enough of those. I don't know how to make those to stop. It's a new day, Rob. That's why it's New World Order. Now, let's just hope that it continues the way that it was. But let's take a look around the NFL. Interesting week. If there were any week of weeks that you wanted to hibernate for the most part from the NFL, I think this was the week. There really wasn't a lot of a lot of really happenings in the NFL, Stevie D, aside from what we're going to talk about in a little bit. But let's just kind of take a quick peek. I think the biggest, before I go there, the game that I will call the fraud game of fraud games from last week, Stevie D.
Ooh, fraud of fraud. Okay.
That's right. The fraud game of fraud games would be the Dolphins beating the Falcons. It is the fraud games for several different reasons. I'm still bent about my Bills losing to the Falcons. All right? Fair enough. But the Falcons, they went out there and you said, maybe they have turned the corner, right? Maybe there is something to the Falcons that are out there. They are just a 3-4 team. And how do you lose? Not just lose. How do you allow a team like the Dolphins to open up a can on you? Right? Think about this. The Falcons, and for the life of me, I will not understand how the Falcons beat the Bills. I just won't. More and more, there's no excuse to this. This is a team that got beat 30-0, Stevie D, by the Carolina Panthers. They've also
New
lost.
day. It's a new world. I mean, every game is different, I guess, huh?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they've lost to the Bucks. Okay, legitimate, and that was a close game. They lost to the 49ers. Okay, legitimate, even though that was Mac Jones. But you lose to the Dolphins. And
You
it
just
wasn't
didn't lose to
a
the Dolphins.
close game. It was 34-10. I don't know how this is possible. I don't know how this is possible. You allowed Tua to actually kind of get a second life. It
You
won't
got to
last
rebirth. You got to rebirth.
every birth. That's right. That's the best way to call it. I am so confused. I am so confused. I don't think they know their identity. Maybe they try to be too cute. Albrecht, how you allow Tua to go off on you?
Well, Jeff Ulbricht's defense, when he was with the Jets, didn't really play very well against Mike McDaniel's offense. It's a
Okay.
track meet whenever Ulbricht's defense went up against Mike McDaniel's offense. It was not pretty. I think we averaged 28 points, 29 points a game against the Dolphins in like 6 or 8 meetings with Ulbricht.
And so it just carried over.
Yeah,
Just
he doesn't know
carried
how to
right
stop it.
down to the Peach State. Horrible, horrible. But that's okay. In some circles, Stevie D, maybe it's a good thing.
Yeah,
Give
get
those
those
Dolphins-
victories. Get them away from the one picks, right? Just leave
Well,
it
that
to the
too.
Jets. Leave it right for us.
I'm thinking the level of confidence. Maybe if they could string a couple of these together, Mike McDaniel gets off of the hot seat, right? Gets to the cool seat. Tua, they're like, that's why he's our guy. Oh, you keep thinking that. you keep thinking that.
Just keep him in mediocrity for another year. I see what you're doing.
So there could be some good there. The Falcons, they have the Patriots coming up. As a Bills fan, do we anticipate the Falcons actually coming up to Foxborough to do something? Maybe so. Maybe so. Maybe they're going to be a surprise.
Hey, it's a new day. I think that's the theme. You started the episode. It's a new day. So
New world order.
Yeah.
Yes, Rob. New world order. So we have some hope. All right. If we continue to go around, I guess the one that is really bugging me is the Eagle Giant game, Stevie D.
Now I didn't see it because I was watching the Jet game. So you're going to have to kind of take the lead on that because
I've seen the clips and heard what folks.
Is that the tush push play? Is that what you're talking about?
That's the tush push strip that they said he was down. They said he was down because they had forward progress had been stopped and they had blown the whistle.
Yeah, I did see that.
Except for you have the Giant player rolling on the ground with the ball, and then the whistle comes. He wasn't stopped. He actually got stripped as he's trying to stretch the ball out, and they take the ball right away from him. There's a little bias to that. B, it definitely speaks to this play just cannot be managed, right? And we've seen the videos, we've heard the discussions about the false starts. I'm not sure if it's different camera angles showing us now, or if this is something that was also happening back then. It's definitely a leverage play, right? It is definitely a leverage play. My contention against the tush push is for injury.
They're saying it's not
wait. Be nice.
Jay's Eagle sense went off.
Right. If nobody knows, there's Mr. Eagle himself.
Wait. I gotta hit the button. Gotta hit the button.
Oh my
Now,
goodness.
Jay, in all seriousness, Jay, come on, Jay. No. Let's not get ahead of ourselves here, Jay. In fairness, Be truthful. They stripped the ball. It should have been Giants' ball. Just admit it. Just admit it. I want to see if you're a legit football guy or you're that much of a homer. What do you got, Jay?
Nothing. He's typing on the mouse, Stevie D. In another clip that people were talking about, just where the refereeing was bad, and we know refereeing is bad all over the league, right? It just stands out when it's so egregious. You had, yes, it was a football.
You mean a fumble? You just can't say the word fumble because you feel like you're going to go against your Eagles?
I think that's what it is. I think that he's trying to maintain that gangrene. Or not gangrene, that fly eagle.
Yeah.
Kelly Green. But we know officiating's been bad throughout the league, right? And it continues. With technology that we have, it just exacerbates the whole thing, right? Because now we have different angles, we have wider zooms, we have 2K, 4K, right? Before you were sitting there looking through a pinhole, hoping that you saw something. But some things are just obvious, right? They called an offensive pass interference on a receiver that is trying to get free. He's not pushing off. He's trying to get his arm free, of which the Eagle DB was grabbing his arm.
So it begs the question, Vince. It begs the question. We just had a news break last week. All these people getting arrested. Gambling. Is there somewhere along the lines, and I sent you guys the clip of former gangster Michael Francesi, right, talking about, he says he was never part of gambling. He was into the gasoline tax. That's what he was, he was milking the government for billions of dollars and stealing the gas tax in New York State. But he said, could have gone either way. Politician over there.
That answer tells me all we need to know. Then you know that it was defensive pass interference and there wasn't offensive pass interference. Go ahead, Stevie D.
But, Michael did say that he had people that came up to him and that had athletes that owed hundreds and thousands of dollars. Now he goes, back in the day, these guys weren't making this kind of money that they're making today. So when they were in the hole for $250,000, $300,000 in the 80s, that was a lot of money. And they couldn't pay it back. They would say, oh, you know who I am, I'm good, blah, blah, blah. And what do? They try and go to the next gangster and try and get betting, and they would fall behind. So now I own you. And that's what he would tell his soldiers and his capos of, let them get in debt because then we own them. How do you think they own them? They own them because now they can rig things because they don't want it getting out that they're in debt in the gambling. And then, once you allow them in, it's like a weed, right? You can't get them out, and they literally own you. And now you're indebted because you'll never get out. Because if you try and get out, what's going to happen? Somebody's going to leak a story. So,
which makes sense why in that playoff game, which was a forward pass, they said it was a lateral. It explains it, right? This goes back. And I appreciate that. Thank you for the clarity. It still doesn't hurt any less, but now I know.
Leave it to the Italians to bring clarity. That's all I'm saying. We may have ruined sports. We may have ruined it, but we're bringing clarity so many years later.
Let's segue from the NFL a little bit and let's talk about that. So, if I'm sure, unless you were living under a rock, you know where Stevie D was headed. That's where you had multiple big league names from the NBA. And I think 32 people in total were rounded up. Biggest name probably would be Chauncey Billups in a gambling probe by the FBI, right? So this isn't your local or municipal or county police or sheriffs. We're talking the feds, right? Come and knock in at 5 a.m. in the morning, and
Got that no knock warrant. Got that no
yep,
knock warrant.
with arrest warrants in hand, and people are being led away. And so, when it first broke, right, they tapped into LeBron James. And so you have to be careful what, all these clickbait that's out there. LeBron James involved in, he wasn't involved as LeBron, right? He was involved because his assistant coach, who was with them in Cleveland and then with him in LA, was feeding information saying whether or not LeBron was going to play, if he was hurt, et cetera, thus adjusting the line. So a lot that we don't know, especially the gamblers, don't know pre tip off or kickoff or face off or any type of off. What we don't know, somebody had insider information too. There was also tied to this, and this is, I think, where Chauncey got caught up, there was illegal poker games. But I like this one more than the sports betting because they had some glasses, Stevie D, that allowed them to read the cards.
Was it the AI glasses or?
I don't know what kind of glasses. I was like, oh, this is good, right? But this side also with the illegal poker was tied to the mafia or the mob families that you have there. Interesting enough, they listed all 5 families. I was like, wow.
Yes. So if it overlaps and if it's in the good interest of the families, they will partner together to really create that strong monopoly. So that's really the only time they really pair together, if it's in the interest of all the families and they're all making bank.
So I think this is why the NFL was so quiet because, this story, it hit and it broke. But then as we bring it back, it makes you wonder, right? It really does make you wonder. I'm not throwing shade, but it is shade at the Kansas City Chiefs. It makes you wonder how you can go through games, seasons, where people are able to show video evidence week after week after week, whether it be Juwan Taylor. All right, let's just start there. This guy constantly has a false start, and just until recent have they started throwing the flag because it was so bad and talked about on such a high level. I think they were almost forced to. It makes you wonder. Stevie D, it looks like you want to say something.
Yeah, remember they reassigned 5 officials that work Chiefs games, and there's no. I don't believe in that as a coincidence, right? They reassigned 5 officials that are no longer working NFL games that were tied to the Chiefs. 7 officials altogether got reassigned. 5 of them were linked to the Kansas City Chiefs. 5.
Yeah.
5. Not 1, 5.
Now,
That's crazy. And I'll go a step further when you think of, I just know watching my team play, and you look at some of the effort and you're like, why are we giving that kind of effort? Now in basketball, when there's only 5 people, it's you can really look at things and when you watch the film and say, man, maybe there is something there, because it's more noticeable with 5. Where one person in the NFL, let's say it's a linebacker, I don't know if the linebacker is going to necessarily cost you the game, but it can hurt you. Don't get me wrong. It's just sometimes you see the effort and you're just like, wait a minute. Are you throwing the game with that effort?
So here's the thing, right? When we look at officiating, I think we hold officials to a different standard than we hold the players, right? Because a player can have a bad game. You can have a bad day on your job. You woke up, you didn't feel well. You ate something bad the night before, right? You could, as you get older, things just happen, right? And you're like, oh, my back hurts. You got a headache, whatever, right? And the players are not immune to this. So you could see a guy, more in line with a quarterback or maybe a running back or wide receiver, right? Where the focus is not there and what we're accustomed to seeing them do. Receiver catching the ball, all of a sudden, hands are too wide and the ball hits him in the face mask. Right? What are you doing, right? Or a couple plays later, just loses focus and drops the ball. I could see that in normal, right? Because what happens in the human brain, in the psyche, you will see people that they grip the bat too tight, or they try to do too much, and it actually does the reverse. Right? When we talk about in baseball, you got a guy that's in a slump and he's just sawing that bat right into a toothpick because he's trying to just get that hit and continues to strike out. Whereas the guy that's more calm, more focused, more relaxed, right? He's hitting the ball, spraying the ball over. Same with football, right? A guy that's just too caught up and trying to make sure that he makes the play ends up not making the play. So when we see that and you say, how did you drop that? How did you fumble Derrick Henry, right? Well, don't want to put any accusations out there, but we've seen that, right? Ernest Biner, how did you fumble at the goal line? Well, maybe because I was thinking, maybe again another one there, Stevie. But no, in all seriousness, you may be thinking of something because you're pressing so hard. I could definitely see it in the Biner one, where all of a sudden you're not thinking about ball security as much as you're thinking, I'm going to win for the Cleveland Browns. It's going to be the first time in forever, right? B, you're thinking about, I got Atwater coming through the hole, and Atwater's going to hit me, or whoever it was right there. Mecklenburg's going to hit me, whatever, right? And you're thinking, I just got to get across that line. And the last thing in your mind is ball security, right? Is taking a clean handoff. That's automatic, right? I'm not worried about that. And then it happens, right? And now it crushes you. And from a quarterback's perspective, I can see quarterbacks that, quote unquote, try to play hero ball. And you're like, what are you thinking? Why are you throwing the ball there, right? Well, you're like, because I can fit it in there. I've done it before. I can fit it in there. Does it make sense, right? So I can see where we can judge a player and say, scratch your head. What, did you do that on purpose? But I can see where it's part of the game and we get frustrated. And then we can try to label it as that. Officiating to me is a little different.
It's like a judge.
It is.
Right.
But there's greater control. If they wanted there to be greater control, there's greater control because you have an assistant. A quarterback, when he throws the ball, does not have an assistant. It's the ball leaving my hand going to the area that I threw the ball, right? So a bad pass, there's not somebody either take two or somebody to redirect that ball and say, you didn't really mean to go there. An official who makes a bad call, there's people sitting up in booths that are sitting in headquarters that can, buzz in, and they do buzz in. If we want it to be good, if we want accuracy, if we want to eliminate any fear that there is some sort of malicious intent, right, or what have you, with regards to how the game is being called, we have the ability to stop that. When things happen time and time again, this goes to you, Roger Goodell. If there's any doubt in any fan's mind, this goes back to you, because you have the power and the control to make sure that things are done right. If we could see it with our own two eyes, if the announcers in the booth could see it, if the camera could see it, maybe the official missed it, and that's fair.
Yeah.
But there should be other people there that say, whoa, hey, Stevie D, we missed that one. We missed that one. That was not pass interference.
I don't think the NFL minds. I think the NFL loves the controversy because it's talking about it. And let's face it, the sport is never more popular. I really do think that the NFL doesn't care. I think the NFL has its favorites. It's always had it, right? From where teams are the darlings of the league. And if it favors that team or that perception, again, It's on ESPN's First Take. It's on Get Up. It's on Fox Sports. It's on the NFL Network. Right? Everybody's talking about the NFL. What's the old saying? No press, no
Bad
bad
press
press
is
being
good
bad
press.
press. Right? And so
But
I don't think they really care unless they are under like an indictment. Like I'm sure they're very careful right now. I think there was something to like okay here and you. I know you like a good conspiracy theory, right? I know you do. What if the FBI went to the NBA, which we know they already did, because they asked the NBA not to remove the players during the investigation. The coaches and the players were not removed. They said we got to leave it alone. How do we know that the FBI had? When did they start looking into all of this? And did they look into all the sports? And maybe they went to the NFL and said, we don't like what we're seeing over here, and maybe we need to reassign. You need to reassign some officials. Or the NFL says, "Okay, we hear you, FBI. We're going to reassign some officials because a story's going to break in about 6 months that the NBA is going down." So now the NFL can say, "Well, yeah, if you want to come out, that we reassign. We thought it was weird too. We didn't like it, and so we're reassigning the officials, so they can't come after us." Like, could that be a real thing? Am I nuts? Like,
no, you're not nuts. You're not nuts. Where I struggle with when you first said where I struggle is that as a businessman, and this league is made up of 32 businessmen, right? And I look at the brand that yes, you can push and get close to that line. But the longer you stay close to that line, in essence, you've crossed that line. And once you cross the line, you're in danger of everything starting to collapse. And that's where I think the NFL needs to be very careful. Because when you show favoritism, Rob had mentioned it here, right? Going back, and I'm sure it goes back even further, right? Going back to the Patriots in PED 12, right? Yes, we saw a lot of things that the Patriots got away with back in the day. You had Spygate, and they just destroyed the evidence right in front of us. They told us they destroyed the evidence. This doesn't happen, right? They tried to make a big to-do about how much air and what the cold will do to air and blah, 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 right? That was to kind of save face. But we know we've seen certain things that have happened. Pro the Patriots, con against 31 other teams, right? There's other things that have happened. And the more you play with it, the closer you get to having it blow up in your face. And now with technology, they can't stop technology. They can't. They're living in this universe where they want to have as much exposure. They want to have as many camera angles to sell as many videos and have as many views and all of these things. But yet that comes at a price because the camera never lies. And so with the camera not lying, the camera's going to show you that this guy left a second and a half before the snap of the gun. Now, maybe if they didn't have that, maybe if we didn't have the wide angle, maybe if it wasn't 360, we wouldn't pay as much attention to it. We wouldn't see it as much. But now, and then with social media, I want to be careful with that, right? Because I'm not a big lover of social media and, you know, how, especially AI and how you can manipulate and all that. But before it got to that point, you can see videos of all the teams and all these things happen. But I go back to Juwan Taylor. It's so egregious. It was so bad that you have a couple of guys that talk football but don't live and wear the official team shirts because we're not on the staff. But sure enough, we could sit there and tell you, like a captain on the defense with a green dot, when Juwan Taylor was lined up a certain way, you knew it was run, you knew it was pass. And when it was pass, inevitably, before the snap of the ball, he was already taking his steps back. And the referee is standing right there. He's the last man on the line. Not like he's the guard, Stevie D. Right? Maybe that would have been a little, you can hide that a little bit. He's the last man there. No obstructed view. And they don't call it. Why? And again, I'm not bashing on the Chiefs. This isn't
Not
a
the
Chiefs
Chiefs' fault. It's not the Chiefs' fault. It's not the Chiefs' problem.
No, it isn't. It really isn't. But why is this guy not calling that? So the NFL, they have got to take this seriously, especially in light of how much attention has been given to the NBA and the arrest of all of these guys. We're not naive to think that if it happens in one, that it's only isolated to the NBA. Yeah, that's not happening. It's happening in the NFL. It's happening in Major League Baseball. It's happening in the National Hockey League. It's happening in soccer. It is what it is. But you need to control it. You need to get it under control. You need to give your fan base, give us a sense that, yes, we have good oversight. Things may happen occasionally. And when it does, we're going to take care of it. But we want our game to be as clean as possible. That's your stance, Roger Goodell, and you're not doing it.
Yeah, it's that's a really fair, right? Because when you think of, because you mentioned the other sports, so we'll talk about Major League Baseball here for a second. You have an umpire like Angel Hernandez that is historically bad, but because he's in a union, there's nothing they do, which I call BS. Like, you have to be judged. And if you have to be suspended during the season because you're missing too many calls, especially when you think of the NFL and big business and how coaches get fired after 1 year. Some offensive coordinators can only last 6 weeks because of whatever. You get a couple of bad calls your way. I'm not trying to overstate it, but man, people can lose their job or get into trouble with their owner, right? Maybe you don't get fired, but now the owner's going to the head coach. Like, I don't like your offensive coordinator. Well, dude, it wasn't his fault. I mean, did you see the call? Did you see what happened? Because you can't talk about the referees because you get fined. Yeah, you can talk about it behind the scenes, but you can't appeal anywhere, right? You have to live with the results, but there's no week-to-week governance holding the officials accountable. What? So they don't do playoff games, or they don't get to call Super Bowl. Whoop-de-doo. Okay. I would expect that they wouldn't be able to coach at the biggest games. But it doesn't do us any good when you have 17 weeks and you're allowing the guys to make the same stupid calls. I mean, I know we're probably going to talk Green Bay and Pittsburgh, because at some point we're going to talk about that game. But since we're talking about bad officiating, did you see the lineman for the Steelers, the tackle? He was almost to the center on a pole before the ball snapped, and then whistle it dead. Like that, to me, that one you want to talk. I mean, we could talk about Jawan Taylor, and it's bad. I don't know how you can pull down the line and it not be called. Like, did you think that was a tight end in motion? Like, land of the bizarro on that one.
Did he report as eligible? That's the question, right? But so you bring up a good point. I obviously we don't want to belabor the point here, but the easy fix, first and foremost, is for each of the major leagues to hire the officials. They become part of your organization. You have direct control. Enough of the penalties for commenting against the officials. If they're that thin-skinned, then make good calls. Utilize the tools and the technology that's out there to assist the officials. You have embraced FanDuel, DraftKings, Harris, MGM, and any other gambling site that's out there. It used to just be Vegas, Atlantic City, and whatever's offshore, right? Which offshore, you couldn't really trust it. And then your local bookie, right? We can't forget about him. It used to be that. Now it's all over the place, and it's all over the place because you have embraced it. You have taken whatever kickback that you're getting. Because don't think, Stevie D, that they just allowed this to happen just because they were having a good day. There's some win in this for the NFL. And so since you have embraced this, you've got to legitimize the calls that are happening that are out there. I don't care if it's for your favorite team in the Kansas City Chiefs. I don't care if it's for your wannabe old school America's team in the Dallas Cowboys. Doesn't matter. When a team like the Carolina Panthers or the Houston Texans, if they're playing, they should get the same treatment that the other teams are getting.
Well, it's the same thing when you say a late hit. Why does the predominant quarterback get the late hit, or the pocket passer get hit for the late hit? But if you're known as a running quarterback, well, you're used to getting hits and you don't get the call. It's got to be the same across the board, to your point. Or call it entertainment. Don't call it sports, because then we know it's fake. Call it entertainment then.
That will crush me to my core if you call it entertainment. Well, this concludes the OW Sports Podcast, and we're signing off.
But I mean, sometimes it's gone through my head. Why don't we just call this entertainment? Because if you're not calling it fair, and I think, when let's just call it, when you're a bottom feeder team, you don't get calls.
You don't.
You don't get them, right? And it's not right. But if you're top echelon, you get more of the call.
Think of how hard they want to talk about parity, but it's not. Think of how hard it is to get over that hump. I mean, that's years in luck, because you got to be lucky that the guy that you selected is not going to just flame out, because you do get a high draft pick, but you never know. But all the things that are stacked against you, and they try to say, "Oh no, we're giving you a fourth place schedule, and we're giving you you're not doing me any justice." When the referee is out there and my guy is 5 yards away from him, and they're like, "Oh, pass interference."
But you can tell the elite programs in the NFL, right? The Chiefs, the Bills. You can say what you will. The Bills are an elite franchise right now, right? With their division titles and their 13 wins a year on average. They're in the place with a first place schedule year after year. That's an elite franchise that, from the top down, you may not get the results that you want right now in Buffalo from a Super Bowl titles, but your franchise is elite because you're facing a first place schedule every year for the last 5 years, and you rinse and repeat, right? You get playoff victories. Okay, you haven't gone to the promised land, but you do win. You're not one and done every year. It's just different. Kansas City Chiefs, right? The Eagles right now could be considered that. You got the Green Bay Packers that are there. The Detroit Lions right now are year after year now in that status. So I do think there is parity in the sense where there are that certain group of teams that are competing for the 5, 6, and 7 playoff spot.
Mm-hmm.
Right, where we have a little bit of that, but you still have your teams where you're going to say the road's going to go through these 2 or 3 teams in the AFC and in the NFC. Right, good luck. Right, so
sure.
Okay.
All right, there's going to be more to come on that one.
Yeah, because Rozier owed $8 million to the IRS. I don't know if you knew about that, but that's
how that started. That's how that started, because he was so far. Yes.
Like,
whew. You want a soap opera? Forget the fact that they took the daytime soaps off. Here you go. I mean, this is as juicy as it gets.
And it's going to get, and as the FBI keeps peeling, they're going to find it in more sports and bigger names, especially in the poker world.
What do they say? You can't handle the truth. That's what it's going to come down to. You really don't want to know. There's going to be fan bases that are going to be crying because they're going to realize they were illegitimate. Then some of them aren't going to care and be like, I don't care. I still got it, right? I don't know. We will see. Stevie D, you wanted to talk a little bit about the reunion or the how do we want to call this? It was the matchup of Jordan Love versus Aaron Rodgers. I'm going to tell you, Jordan Love came to play.
He did. And how do I want to attack this from a Steelers perspective? Of Aaron Rodgers wanted that game really bad. I don't care what he said. You can see it on the sidelines. You can see the frustration that he had during that game. He wanted that game really bad to beat the Packers. First, I just think he still thinks he should be the quarterback there. I truly believe that. I think he's bitter that they chose Love over him, this game meant everything to him, and it didn't work out. Now he didn't play necessarily awful, but the Steelers got problems. When you look at that offensive unit, it is not a good offensive unit at all. They got issues over there. So the Steelers may win that division, but I don't see them racking up any damage there. And the Green Bay Packers humming along. I mean, 35 points like it was nothing. Steelers got problems on defense. They're a bottom tier defense.
They do.
And their offense, believe it or not, is actually below the Jets in yards per game. Think about how bad that is when the Jets average more yards per game. They got issues over there. And he makes some plays. There's no doubt. He makes some throws. He made a nice throw on the run where he dropped that in. And he can make some plays, but there are some others that you just got to get to him. If you saw any pressure, he's old. I mean, let's face it, he's old. He doesn't have the same reactions.
So Rob mentioned it, and it is the funniest thing to me is the circle of life of a Green Bay Packer quarterback, right? That's the funny thing to me, because if we saw what happened with Favre, right, Rodgers has in essence mirrored every single step. I can't wait for about 5 to 7 years from now for Rodgers to be caught up in some sort of scandal with the government of where he's from, California, with California, right, where he's siphoning money to try to build a gymnasium, right, because he has done everything. Oh, by the way, don't forget about his text pick. So he's in for that one. Hey, Aaron, there's some things you got to check off the list, but he has done everything Brett has done, and this is very reminiscent to Brett Favre, and just it's unreal. He talks about trying to escape the shadow and how he's not trying to do things when it is absolutely the same. I love the fact that Jordan Love and the Packers really just came to play, right? And they balled out. Obviously you mentioned the Steelers defense, so, that certainly was in the Packers' favor. But in these situations, I'm kind of pro team, not pro player.
Right.
Right? Why the animosity? You were upset and butthurt when you were, a rookie, a second-year player out of Cal, and you had this old gray-haired guy that was out there that kept saying that he was going to retire, and then he would come back, and people were all in love with him. You're like, what about me? 15 years later, you're doing the exact same thing, right? Yes, you got MVPs, but at a certain point, there's that invisible line, and if you would just sit down and think, I did the same thing. I was in the same situation with Brett. If you move on, okay, you move on. I want to finish. There's some things I want to check off on my bucket list. I want to make sure I get to X amount of touchdowns or X amount of yards. The likelihood of you getting a championship probably wouldn't happen. You're not PED 12. Maybe you are taking PEDs, but you're not PED 12, right? And so he got lucky where he ended up in Tampa, got another championship. But just hand it over to the next guy. Your time has come, right? And it was good to see where Love stepped up. So, the The other thing before we get into our teams there, and boy, we took a long time there. Sorry, before we got to our team, so that may cut some things down. I did want to share a little nugget. So we always say we're going to talk a little bit about Kyron Lacey, and so you'd say, well, what's new? What's in the development? It's not anything into the case itself, right? But we talk, and I seem to throw the word fraud out there. Everything's a fraud. My Bills are a fraud, right? The Falcons are a fraud. But I'm going to tell you, Brian Kelly is a fraud. The now fired LSU head coach, Brian Kelly. And I appreciate Kyron Lacey's parents coming out and saying what really happened. And so, real short, I mean, we're not going to go deep here, but Brian Kelly came out at the press conference. Kyron Lacey's name came up. He said, "Oh, I reached out to the family, offered sympathies and support, especially after the suicide." And the Lacey family said, "No, you didn't. No, you did not. All right, let's be clear. You did not reach out." Sometimes, why do you even say things that can get you in trouble? This is the same guy when he got hired, developed a Louisiana-style type accent during his initial presser. This guy comes from Notre Dame, now to LSU, and he's trying to speak as if he's from Louisiana. So, but still, Stevie D, no more news or developments have been made public in Kyron Lacey.
Awful quiet. Awful
It
quiet.
is.
That's what makes me nervous when it gets awful quiet.
Yeah. And we don't know where it's going to go. But again, to everybody, please read and follow, and we'll continue to provide updates as they're made available. Okay.
Because it certainly won't come from Brian Kelly.
All right. Where do we want to start? I think we're going to start with Stevie D. We want to throw the confetti. We're popping the champagne. It's over, baby. It is over. New World Order. That's why, Rob. That is why. Congratulations, Stevie D.
Thank you.
I see the glow, the shine.
It's kind of weird. We're no longer perfectly imperfect, and so we have a blemish on our record. So
I don't think you guys tried hard enough. I don't think you tried hard. You got just a third of the way. You were there. It was there for you, and you decided you wanted to win.
Yeah. Look. What's the formula? We've said it in training camp. You have to run the football. The football sets up the play action. The play action allows you to throw the ball downfield, and everything rolls, right? So it took us a couple of drives to get in sync, and things started happening. But it just goes to show you run the football effectively. You open up the play action. He hit different receivers all over the place. He looked like a different quarterback out on the field because he had time and he was decisive with his throws. I've been saying it over and over again. The tape is not lying. When you have the throws and you're getting almost like you're pump faking to hold the ball and you hold and then boom, you get sacked. Or you're trying to twist like this and you hold the ball and you get sacked. You're not decisive with open receiver. You're doing it with open receivers, like just throw the football. And on Sunday, he threw the football. Justin Fields has all the talent in the world. Sometimes I think the problem is just right here. Like he's trying to be perfect. You don't need to be perfect. You can make a mistake. Just throw the football. Don't hope.
So let me ask you, right? Because unbeknownst to people over here, Stevie D and I have regular conversations about football outside the podcast, right? And he has always said, and actually said it on the podcast about running the football, but more towards Justin. So here's the first question. Do you think that Justin was playing under a lot of pressure leading up to this game, and then the comments and the whole Tyrod knee, where basically he was relegated to the bench, and I was like, who cares? I'm just
Well,
going
he
to
was
play.
never relegated to the bench because he never named Tyrod the starter technically.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
He may have thought that, or maybe he said privately, Justin, you're going to sit. If Tyrod's knee's good, he's going to be the starter. They may have said that privately, but they never said it publicly. So in fairness,
To him, good point, and for clarity. But do you think that the insinuation that he was going to the bench, do you think that kind of cleared his psyche where now it's just like, who cares, right?
No, I don't.
Let me just go out there and play my game.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. I think the running game opened up the play action, and I think he felt more comfortable throwing out of the play action. I
But
don't.
he
I don't.
saw the whole field this time. You've talked about where he only sees a third of the field, similar to what we saw with Tyrod and Buffalo.
There was times he saw a third of the field. There's times that he sees the field and he's got he looks over here and then he's over here and he's got the guy right in front of him wide open and he doesn't throw the football. It's mind blowing when you watch when you watch it from above. It is so wild. We talked about going to a football game, sitting up high in a football game where you can target the corners. Like if there's a matchup you want to see, you can see a totally different part of the game that the TV doesn't show you. And you're watching these replays and you're scratching your head because you're watching it from one angle from behind the Jets huddle, and then you're watching it from the defensive side, and you're just like, why are you holding the ball? Like you're looking at the receiver. Why are you holding it then to get sacked? It was so bizarre. And then there was times where he was just singular focused, and that didn't work. Right, where you're singular focused and boom, you're eventually going to get hit because you're waiting for that route to open and you're not seeing the whole field. And that was part of his game, part of his problem. So he had multiple problems, in fairness, to not seeing the open receiver and then locking in on one guy. And then by then it's too late because you're only locked on that one side of the field where, to be successful, you got to process quick, right, across all field and make that decision within 2.25 seconds. Right. Unless it's a play downfield that you have to give it a little bit of long time because you're going 65 yards downfield. But I personally, I said no to your question. I really don't. I don't know what he was thinking. Right. So it's unfair to answer. I just think the running game, when you're averaging almost 8 yards a clip in that game, 7.9 yards per attempt, your passing game is going to be great because now they have to respect that. And on that play action, you're going to get people to bite because you're giving up eight yards a clip. And when you think about the game, we didn't have a home run. We had one 50-yard run, but we really didn't have those home run 80. We rushed for 254, and we didn't have an 80-yard run. We had one 50-yard run. So to average 8 yards a clip, you're humming at 8 yards a clip all game because you didn't have those big home runs. So I really thought the run kind of set up the play action. But I think you had another question.
No. So you were saying something, and I was laughing because I was going to say something similar, just for the Bills, but then I realized good old Ray Davis kind of ruined that. So go ahead.
But I thought what I saw from Fields in the play action was a decisive quarterback, and he threw it. Like he threw it. The Jets were down 17-3 before halftime. 4th and 2, you could have kicked the field goal, make it an 11-point game. It would have been a chip shot for Nick Folk, maybe like a 38-yarder, and he went for it. And the pass rush was coming off the right tackle. It was almost like they let the guy go. We didn't have a back to cover that side of the field. And off the back foot, he threw a very nice lob pass towards the corner of the end zone, dropped it in there for a touchdown to, I think it was Williams, or it might have been Johnson. It was either number 16 or number 18. I don't remember. And it was a beautiful throw. And there it was with the pressure in his face, and he knew exactly where he was going on his back foot. He still had the great mechanics just off the back foot because the rush was really in his face. I thought it was a beautiful throw. So, again, Justin shows that he can do it. Just be decisive, man. Don't be afraid. And I think his time in Chicago with the media getting on him about turnovers or this or that about his game, and then he goes to the Steelers at 4-2. He gets pulled as a starter for Russell Wilson, and he's probably saying to himself, "Man, I didn't kill. I wasn't a turnover machine. I was 4-2. Okay, I averaged 165 yards a game, but we were 4-2. I'm rushing the football. What am I doing wrong?" And he comes to the Jets, week one. He was decisive with the ball. We lost. And then all of a sudden, it just seemed like every week after that, he just became more timid to throw the football. And Justin, I know you're listening. At least one of your fake Jets hanger, profiles are following the podcast. Like, be decisive. Don't be afraid to turn over the football. You saw the Tyrod come in, throw 2 picks, and they were willing to possibly go to him the next game. It's not about the turnover per se. It's about being decisive. And if a turnover happens, it happens. You pick yourself up because you're a professional athlete and you go after it on the next drive. Because you know what? The guy in Buffalo, when he throws a turnover, which doesn't really happen the last 2 years, but in the previous years, what he would do, it's not like he wouldn't throw the football. He'd get back there and throw it again. You can't be afraid to throw.
Well, careful. You are given that leash when they like you and they believe in you.
Yeah, but
If they don't like you or they don't believe in you, then they look for the excuse, and that turnover becomes that excuse. That's the tough part.
Yeah, I guess where I'm going with it is he's going to be out of the league if he doesn't throw the football. Because what's on tape is not a lie. Like people, like a lot of Jets fans are saying, it's not Justin Fields, it's the offensive coordinator, if it's the offensive line. No. When you're getting sacked from 3 to 3.5 seconds to throw the football, that's to me on your quarterback. Especially when you watch the tape and guys are open and you're not throwing the football, that's your quarterback. Now, you can say your offensive coordinator can design better plays. I won't necessarily argue there. I'm not saying Tanner is all-world play calling. This is the first time he's play calling. He's 8 games into his play calling ability where he's showing it. Yeah, I think he can learn how to be a better play caller. And you hope that he will learn things over time. I just want him to know to just throw the football. Because what you did against the Steelers, you threw it in tight coverage where I was like, oh, man, that was a hell of a throw. Like, you fit it in there between 2 guys. Throw the ball. Don't be afraid to throw the football. Because if you don't, you're going to be out of this league. So it doesn't matter that you don't turn the ball over. You're going to be out of league because you need a quarterback that's not afraid to throw the football. And Justin's got the skill set to do it. I know he does. I've seen it now in 2 games. Pittsburgh and last week against the Bengals. Play action and again, just drop back, no play action, zip the ball in there. He can do it. Trust yourself. Trust yourself because it's all up here. It's all up. That's from what I see. But outside of that, I thought the Jets, the line played well. The defense didn't. 16 missed tackles. Right? I mean, again, I'm sorry. Right, Jamie Sherwood, I'm not a fan. Obviously, he got into trouble because he sat the first quarter. He was not in the first quarter. We had the rookie from Miami playing, Kiko. And I was glad to see that he did something wrong and he benched the first quarter. 2 weeks ago was John Simpson getting pulled out, in the middle of a game because of a stupid penalty. Love it. All right. But Jamie Sherwood had an opportunity to stop Flacco on 3rd down. He gives up 12 yards because we can't tackle Joe Flacco. We let Joe Flacco run for 13 yards up the gut and we can't make a tackle. Please. 16 missed tackles is a joke. It's a joke. Can't do that. That's like 4 times already this year that we've had games where we were 13 plus missed tackles in a game. Dude, man up and do your job. Make the freaking tackle. It's embarrassing. You're embarrassing yourself. Right? But again, at the end, they made the plays that needed to be made. So when we needed the Jets defense to finally step up, we did. So really, at the end of the day, that's what I'll talk about at the game. The last piece I want to talk about with the Jets is that you're starting to see changes with Aaron Glenn and his personnel. Jamie and Sherwood better be very careful because he's going to be gone at the end of the year. And Kiko, I don't know how to pronounce your last name. It starts with an M, number 51. Manguaya, I don't know. I'm just bad at pronouncing his last name. I see him taking his spot at middle linebacker because when he was in the game, the communication is much better than Jamie and Sherwood. And this kid's a rookie, and he's still got room to grow. But Jamie and Sherwood, you're now on the clock. You have 9 games left to show your value, or that contract is getting ripped up. Michael Carter just got traded today to the Eagles. He was our nickel corner that we gave a lot of money to. He is now gone. Why? Because Michael Carter, in the last few years, has been hit with the injury bug. And when he's been on the field in this defense, he's been atrocious. They traded for Brown Lee from the Titans. He has come in and has been a playmaker in the slot. Michael Carter, here's your walking papers. Everybody loves Quincy Williams, number 56, outside linebacker. Quincy Williams, you're on the clock. You're a free agent, so you can walk away and the Jets can let you go. But Quincy Williams, you're fast. I'll give you that. You've made some good tackles, but you've also missed plenty of tackles, and you play with your head down, not up. And when you play with your head down, you miss a lot of what's happening on the football field, right? Because you're trying to run through a brick wall. I need you with your peripheral vision, not knowing. That's how you get robbed, right? You walking on the street in New York City and you're walking with your head down, you're a target to get robbed, right, on the street. Those guys, they see the people that are focused on what's going around and the people that are not. Quincy Williams, I need you to play with your peripheral vision. You're a candidate to be out. This roster, especially on the defensive side of the ball, is going to be overhauled, and they're going to bring in guys that understand what Aaron Glenn and Steve Wilkes want to do. And it's just a lot of turnover that's going to happen, and it's starting to happen. Do I think Quincy Williams will be traded? I don't. But I guess I wouldn't be surprised if he did. If somebody came calling for an outside linebacker and they were willing to give a 3rd or 4th round pick, Quincy Williams, thank you very much for your service, but you're no longer here. Again, Jet fans are going to kill me. They're like, are you kidding me? He's the best part of our defense. You got to look beyond what he's done in the past. You really have to evaluate a player. It's kind of like how, Vince, you've done it, and you've been critical of A.J. Epinesa, and at times you've been critical of Rousseau.
Number 57.
Number 57, my bad. I said his name. So sorry. I totally forgot that we don't call him by his name. We call him by his number. I think Rousseau, I'm allowed to say his last name because I don't know his number. Maybe it's 50. I don't know. But, you have called out players on the team for not stepping up in big-time moments. And sometimes with Quincy Williams, he has the boneheaded plays, right? And he doesn't see the field. And we have to be honest, when you're evaluating players, when you want to give people contracts and extensions, I just think we're going to be very different. Andre Cisco played his last game with a Jet towards pectoral muscle. I think it's going to come out here. Since they're on a bye, I think there's a little bit more time before you have to announce that and where you pick up somebody on your roster. He's done. He was a disaster as a free agent signing. Bad tackling, bad angles, bad in coverage, but he was a hard hitter. But he's gone. So Malachi Moore, the rookie out of Alabama, getting more and more playing time. He's stepping up. He's got to play better with the missed tackles, but he's a rookie. He's going to get better. He fits the scheme of what they're trying to do. So, again, with the Jets, last 9 games, I think there's going to be a shift in some personnel. I think people may be surprised who you're going to see on the football field in the last 9 weeks as you prepare for next year, right? Time to get those reps for the other guys to see what they have. Do you have something in those guys? And that's what I would expect over the last 9 games with some of our depth players. So that's really the Jet report there, Vince. Nothing more.
Well, I have to do it one more time. I do. It's just, oh, happy day. My guy is back. He is back. Because I'm telling you, ladies and gentlemen, that gentleman right there was not in a good place. He was not happy. So I'm glad to see you're back.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Nick. That's what I'll say.
So, in the land of the seven, I struggle, Stevie D. I want to be happy. I want to be happy, right? I do. I saw some good things,
Okay.
but I'm waiting. Now, first and foremost, Ed Oliver, huge loss, torn bicep. Huge.
Brutal.
He's saying, they're saying, he'll be back hopefully for playoffs. I'm enough. You did this with Milano. You've done this with other players. Just make the move and let him recover and come back next year. Don't try to rush it. It's a big loss, though. It's a big man that is playing some good ball up the middle. But this was the unveiling of Michael Hoyt and Larry Okeechobee, right? So I'm not going to start anything, and I'm going to talk to you more offline what it reminds me of. So but Michael Hoyt was a man possessed out there, right?
Was that one of your suspended free agents?
He was. This was his first game, and definitely wanted to make his presence felt, let people know, what he's about. Okay, I need you to continue this now throughout the remainder of the season. Don't be a flash in the pan like this is what I could give you, because then I'm gonna say, well, you gave it to me against the Carolina Panthers. That's what you gave me. You gave it to me against Andy Dalton. But sometimes, the positive of this DVD is that sometimes you need to go. In the immortal words of Mark Grace from baseball, sometimes you need a slump buster. You were not expecting that one. You went on mute. I can't hear you. Maybe you're on mute for a reason. I can't hear you.
I said, I'm sorry. I was, but this is not OW Sports After Dark. So,
It is not.
okay. So, I don't want to confuse everybody. Maybe everybody understands what we're talking about in that context. But I appreciate you using Mark Grace's name there to try and mask it a little bit. Yeah.
If you don't know what we're talking about, go ask Mark Grace. Don't ask us. Just ask Mark Grace. But sometimes you need that, right? And maybe that's what this was. When I look at that game, it certainly highlighted the good of Joe Brady, okay? Because obviously there was true game planning that was required. Now, you were coming off of a bye, but there was true game planning required. You saw a Carolina's Panthers team that has a really good rush defense. You also saw where they could be exploited from their rush defense, which was going more to the outside. And then that allowed James Cook to just go absolutely berserk, right? 19 carries, 216 yards, 2 medium and 1 long run, 64 yards. And, he was just running wild. Ray Davis. See, this is where I was going when Stevie D was talking about the stats for the Jets against the Bengals. He gets the edge because of Ray Davis. Your 9 carries for 16 yards and a 1.8 average all of a sudden drops the numbers from James Cook of 19 carries for 216 and 11.4. Overall, the Bills rushed the ball 35 times for 245 yards and a 7-yard per carry average. Less than what the Jets did, thanks, Ray Davis. Again, you have shown no value. You couldn't go for 4 yards a carry against a team that was just being gashed. No, you couldn't. So, that's just a little parting shot. I try to identify. But the good, right? So the good, you saw where Brady was. He's got a good offensive mind. He really does. The problem is, too much in love with the run game. I love a run game. But if you don't create the ingenuity balance, right? Because what Joe Brady has done is put a heavy emphasis on the run game, whether it be coming out of 13, 12, or 11 personnel, right? Now you got Jackson Hawes, and they're enamored with the 13 personnel. I'm fine with that, right? That's smash mouth football. Let's run it down your throat. That's good. But you also have to put Josh in good situations where Josh can be effective passing the ball. And when the vast majority of your passes, and I had the stats earlier, can't find it. Rob, if you know, chime in. When the vast majority of your passes are either behind the line of scrimmage, at the line of scrimmage, or within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage, that's not good. Those, in essence, Stevie D, are just extensions of the run game. They're not real. They are real pass plays, but that's really what it is. You're hoping that your guys are slippery enough, like a Khalil Shakir, that he can take a wide receiver screen, a bubble screen, and be able to turn that from what most players may be a 3 or 4 yard gain, but turn that into a 20-yard gain, and you say, well, hey, I had a 20-yard pass. No, you didn't. You threw the ball directly down the line of scrimmage, and then you allowed him in his shiftiness to get you 20 yards down the field.
And didn't Shakir break one?
He did.
Yeah.
On a short pass. Right? It was like a 5-yard pass, and the next thing you know, he breaks a tackle, shakes somebody, finds a little seam, and is gone. You're not driving the ball down the field. Where does this become a problem? Now everybody is coming up, and you make it harder for your run game. You make it harder for your pass game. Where does this start to really show? I am still of the mindset. Yes, I would like to have an upgrade in my wide receiving crew. Sure, 100%. But I also am a strong believer that the coordinator is really the ultimate determining factor, because the coordinator can put the receivers into the right position, the right formation, the right position in order to scheme them open, especially if you don't have a burner that could just put on the Jets and just be open, right? You don't have the most prolific type wide receiver like a Jerry Rice, right? And we don't have like a Jamar Chase, right? We don't have that. But you don't have to have that to be successful. We've seen and we see teams in this league that don't have these top-tier wide receivers, yet they have receivers that are catching the ball 15, 20, 25 yards down the field. You mean to tell me, if I look at my wide receiver room, that these guys can't do it? They can. They have in college. They can here in the pros. What's the problem? It's the guy that's calling the play, the guy that is setting up the formation. Square peg, round hole.
Is he afraid of turnovers? I mean, why do you think he's being conservative in that fashion with his play calling?
100%. I do believe it is turnovers. I think it's multifold here, right? I think that there has been such an impetus put on the turnover battle, the turnover difference with this team. That comes from a head coach that is a defensive head coach. That's huge, right? And his emphasis, we want to rip the ball away, and we don't want to give the ball back to them. If I have one of the most prolific players, an MVP, a guy that is Madison Avenue because everybody realizes how much talent he has, I am going to elevate him as much as I can. And if it takes you 120 seconds to go from your 20 to their end zone, I don't care. Because I know you'll put the ball in the end zone. I'm going to let it go. And then I can have the counter of a James Cook to be able to make you think about some things while my guy is still doing his thing. Now, when you are aggressive like that, the turnover possibility goes up. It does.
Can I interrupt for a second?
Sure.
So when the Bills' turnovers were higher, weren't you averaging like 35 points a game?
Mm-hmm.
So the turnovers didn't necessarily hurt you from scoring points.
No.
You won 14, 15 games a year, even though you had elevated turnovers, but your yards per game and all your touchdowns and all that were through the roof. So that's what's so mind-blowing to it is that now your quarterback is older and mature and is been playing smart football now for a couple of years now. Well, it's not a dig on him playing. I always thought he was a really good football player.
But hold on. I do believe that Josh's MVP was a byproduct of the more conservative play call. We talked about it when it was 2 years ago when Josh had all the interceptions and everybody said, oh, well, he would be an MVP except for the interceptions. And my contention was, I don't care about the interceptions. I said it on the podcast when we were going through our top 10, and right? I don't care about the interceptions as long as you are producing with the touchdowns. If you're at a 2-to-1 ratio, I'm good. Right? I'm fine with that. You keep doing you. You keep getting those touchdowns. You become aggressive. You're aggressive throwing the ball. You're aggressive as a quarterback running the ball. You have put, just by a single player, you have put so much pressure on that defense. They have to keep, and you see teams now, they have to keep a spy in for Josh. That's fine. Now I'm playing 11 on 10. And if I'm playing 11 on 10, allow the offensive coordinator to open it up, and now it goes really crazy. I have so much. The fact that, and again, I go back to McDermott. I'm not hating on McDermott today. I'm not hating on McDermott, but it definitely, when you have a defensive-minded coach, it leads itself into that. He's trying to protect his defense. How's he protecting his defense? By having his offense go on long, sustained drives. Problem, McDermott. The longer you are out there for the drive, the greater the chance and the higher the risk for something to happen, right? So if I can get from here, from A to B in 5 plays, but now you're making me do it in 10 plays. That's an extra 5 plays where I can have a penalty. I could have an injury. I could have a turnover, right? I could be stopped. And now you're adding too much to it. Go ahead, Stevie D.
You're asking your offense to do something that they're not really good at. Your offense is really good of going 80 yards in 4 and 5 plays.
I wouldn't agree with that. I wouldn't agree with that.
I see your team can move down that field really.
Yeah, you're saying you're asking them to do something they're not good at. They are very good at ball control. They are very good at sustaining. They have a very good offensive line that allows them to run the ball. My problem that I have is that you are limiting that team and making them one-dimensional. And in order to be successful with the big teams on the big stage, you have to be multi-dimensional. Okay, there lies the problem.
Let me rephrase. In this offense, I see you doing more 3 and outs than I ever seen you do before.
I would agree.
And maybe that's where I'm going with it, where you're asking them to do something that they're not good at and certain play calls that you're doing because you're looking to keep this drive to make it a 10-play drive. When I look at your offense, there's only a few offenses that I have seen in my time of watching football that goes back to your K-Gun, to the Rams, to the Buffalo Bills now. We've seen it like with Mahomes. They can go down the field. There was years ago that they can go down the field really quick. In a blink of an eye, you give them 40 seconds before half, that's nothing for them to go 80 yards for a touchdown, right? You've seen, there's certain offenses through the turn of time. The Minnesota Vikings, when they were 15-1 with Culpepper Moss and Chris Carter, they were prolific, right? You see these offenses that are prolific, that can score 500 points a year, can move it down. And I look at your offense and I say, how do you stop this thing? It's almost like your coordinator gets in its own way to
100%.
stop your offense from just
100%.
4 plays, 75 yards down the field in a blink, 36 seconds. Boom. It's unbelievable. I'm like, I wish I had that problem. One time, I wish I had that problem where I felt confident in my offense to go that kind of yards in under a minute. And you guys can do that. And that's why, man, it's so scary. And I'm like, again, as an outsider, when Joe Brady does those things, you are helping that other team. You're helping them. Because just don't know how you can stop that offense, because if you call the right plays, they're like unstoppable.
Yeah, no, you're on to something there. It's funny when you bring up some of the teams of the past, right? And you look at how can you stop yourself, or well, only you are stopping yourself. It is truly Sean McDermott and the conservative style. And why are you conservative? Well, are you conservative because you're trying to protect Josh? Are you conservative because you realize that you have holes on your defense? That it is really your defense that you're trying to it is your defense that you're trying to protect, because you have poor safeties, your cornerback play was suspect, your linebacker play is suspect because of injuries. You're not getting what you needed from your defensive line. Is that what you're really trying to protect? Are you willing to have a full OK Corral type shootout if you have all the bullets in your gun, meaning your offense is there, your defense is there, let's go? There's a very good possibility that that's the mindset of Sean McDermott in trying to protect him. The problem that I have, and where I go back to Joe Brady, is that you can only be so conservative for so long. And you, as the offensive coordinator, you have got to make sure that you're putting your players in the best position to be successful. That's all you're asking for. Does that mean that a Keon Coleman can't get open? No, it doesn't. Does that mean that a Khalil Shakir, the only thing that he can do is run a bubble screen? No, it doesn't, right? What it means is that you have to have a little bit of ingenuity there. We have seen this with different offensive coordinators. You talked about the 15-1 Minnesota Vikings. It's a different era, 1998. I get it, right? But that was a time that was Denny Green and Brian Billick. Brian Billick was the OC at the time. But look at the weapons you had. Jake Reed, Chris Carter, Randy Moss, and Robert Smith. Just go. Right? And Culpepper, just throw it down there. It's a little different.
Probably a couple Hall of Famers on that offensive line.
Yeah, yes, indeed. But let's bring it to something a little bit more modern, right? I don't want to use them as the poster boy, but look at the Patriots. The Patriots never really had that top wide receiver, except for Moss, for a few years. But that was it. But yet they were able to scheme and to put these guys into positions where next thing you know, you had household names. Troy Brown? Who is Troy Brown before or after? But during that time, you knew about him.
David Patton.
I'm sorry?
David Patton.
There's another name. These are guys that, through the ingenuity of the offensive coordinator, they were able to put them into positions to be successful. You have the ability to do the same. You don't have to always follow a certain model. And that's the problem. That's where I put the onus on Joe Brady. One last thing, and I'll close this one up here, Stevie D, because it's really about coaching. It's very interesting, and people are starting to ask questions. I've said it before, and I will say it again. Sean McDermott is not a good head coach. He is a great defensive coordinator. I will continue to say that. I love him as a defensive coordinator. And the reason why I bring that up, Stevie D, the questions are asked. Who called the defense? Was it Bobby Babbage or was it Sean McDermott?
What came up that lead to that
Well,
question?
just for the style of play, the performance that you had on the field. I don't know if anybody ever really heard anything because you really don't know. It's a microphone. It's a green dot, right? But McDermott's response was interesting because it wasn't just, nope, that was all Bobby Babbage, right? You didn't hear that. But you did hear that Bobby Babbage was the one calling the plays. There's a different way that it was said, right? But you certainly could infer, and not only the performance on the field, the positioning of players, et cetera, that Sean McDermott had a hand in that. And again, I will continue to say, a great defensive mind. We have seen those throughout. We have seen great defensive minds that have really never catapulted themselves to the top tier echelon. Doesn't take anything away from them, right? I do believe, and I hate to say this because I don't want to believe this, because I believe that this is our year. But I do believe that he is ultimately going to be the one to hold us back from getting to where we need to go. Just because of the defensive scheme, the defensive mindset, the conservative play. It took him forever to go for it on fourth down. Come on, guy. Right? This is a whole new game. Right? And finally you do it, and then you realize you have Josh. Why are we not tush-pushing Josh? Or snowplow or whatever they want to call it? Why are we not doing that? 4th and 1. They did it for the first time in the Carolina Panther game. It took you this long and post-bye to realize, I forgot about this play in the playbook. Totally forgot about this one. Yeah, it worked every time last year except for the Chief game, and you forgot about that? So, and this goes back to the gambling statement. I'm not saying the Bills are gambling, right? This goes back to that statement. We don't know, as fans, we don't know what's really happening. We don't know what's going on behind the scenes, right? We don't know if players are vested with mob families. We don't know that. We don't know if somebody's called into, somebody to say, hey, I need you to do X, Y, Z. We don't know if maybe there's tie-ins with Roger, right? And maybe that's why it's so loosey-goosey. But on this, we don't know what's happening behind the scenes of our own organization. They're not going to come out and tell us. So we can only infer and kind of decipher from what we see as far as the play on the field, compare, contrast from week 1 to week 2, week 1 to week 3, right? And what are we seeing? And when I look at what we have out there, this is reminiscent to a couple years ago, but I truly get in my gut that Sean McDermott, Brandon Beane, well, not yet a Beane, I got one more thing on Beane, but Sean McDermott, Joe Brady, and Bobby Babbage, and all of their supporting coaches looked at the schedule this year and said, this is a nice schedule. We have an easy go of it. So let's not, show our hands too early.
Okay.
Let's not open up the playbook too early because we anticipate by week 10, week 11, we'll be popping champagne, wearing T-shirts saying that we're AFC East champions. And we'll be headed toward that first round bye, except for reality hit them. And now coming off the bye, they realize, man, you look at the Patriots schedule, we're going to have to run the table as much as they're running the table, and they got an easy one, right? So we got to beat them on the head-to-head. They realize Indianapolis and Daniel Jones is coming out of nowhere, right? All of a sudden, the Chiefs are not what we thought the Chiefs were going to be. We actually have to play some ball. And so I anticipate that coming out of the bye, and I'm going to use the Panther game as another bye, coming out of that bye, that we're going to see a different level of coaching. I'm anticipating that. I'm hoping for that. I got one more thing for you, Stevie D, right? Normally we have the scroll that goes across and shows all the free agents, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, Brandon Bean is not watching OWSports podcast because CJ Gardner-Johnson was on the scroll as far as an available safety, and you allowed the Chicago Bears to sign him. Really good, Brandon Bean. That's right. There's another one off the market. Oh, by chance, Tyler Lockett may be available as far as a wide receiver. Nope, you let him get away.
He went to the Raiders, though. He was going back home with Geno and Pete Carroll.
Hey, he may have, but did you call? Did you call? I can tell you, you did not call. You're so excited that your big moves are bringing back your suspended players coming off of suspension for week 7, bye week now, week 8, that's your big move. No, you got big gaps. Now, the one thing you did do, still not a big move, but the Bills did re-sign or sign to the practice squad now officially Gabe Davis, which tells me that Gabe is going to be signed to the active roster, and they're bringing him up probably to put fear. Oh, yeah, we're going to put number 13 out there. Number 13 to make Andy Reid think about and Steve Spagnuolo think about that playoff game with 13 seconds. That's what it is. There is a reason for this. And Rob, if you're still there, because you know the number 13 resonates, right? We utilize 13 personnel. So we're going to have 13 personnel with number 13 out there to make them think about the game that had 13 seconds. Okay. That's the big move of the day. By the way, that's the big move. Don't address your safeties. Let's just go ahead and sign Gabe Davis. I do hope, I will say this, I do hope that Gabe plays better to show up the Bills organization. I do. I liked him. I thought they gave up on him. He left for more money, obviously, but I don't know how truly vested they were in bringing him back. And when things like that happen, I kind of go player side instead of team side, even if it's my own team. You have to make good decisions. I think you believe that for your Jets as well. I know you believe that for the Jets, and I know everybody believes that for everything. Make good decisions. Sometimes those decisions don't pan out. Fair enough, right? But you tried. People didn't like Doug Whaley when Whaley was the GM for the Bills. I didn't have a problem with Whaley because he swung and he tried. We talk at World Series time. The biggest thing I hate is a batter has 2 strikes on him, and he gets called on a 3rd strike just standing there with the bat on his shoulder. You know you have to swing. You have to try to follow it off. You have to do something. Don't just stand there. And Whaley, questionable trade on Sammy Watkins, I get it, right? But we get it after the fact, not before. Because if you remember pre-draft, Sammy Watkins was way up there. And they made that trade. We were like, oh, man.
Look, I think Harry Roseman is setting the bar that when it comes to the trade deadline or at any point in time, if there's a point where there's a free agent, he's going to go out and find a way to get it done. And It's wild the last few years how you're quiet when you need a trade to happen to bolster a secondary, for instance, and you don't go out and get that help because that's the time to do it. You see it in baseball all the time. You get to the trade deadline. I need a pitcher. I need a hitter. I'm going to give up something because I feel that that player is going to get me over the hump. In football, it is a different than it was 20 years ago. The trades now happen at the deadline. People are looking to improve their team, right? Sometimes you swing and the trade works. Sometimes you swing and you don't, but you can't be afraid to swing
That's right.
because you've said it. There's only so many times you get the opportunity, and then that window closes, or whatever the case may be. If you're a safety away because you need to clean things up, make the trade. Because you know you're not giving up a first rounder for a safety. So you give up a fourth rounder for a safety. Okay.
Give up 57 for a safety. I don't have a problem with that. Even though he had an interception, everybody was hitting me up because he has this interception. I was like,
You know, he's not having an awful year from what the stats are saying. Now, what did he do in January, right?
so okay, fair enough. Another reason why analytics is horrible for sports because stats wise, it shows that he's doing something different. However, when you actually look at the play in the field, Rob likes to call well, there it is. I was waiting for it, Rob. The drive-by assassin. That's right. So I was going to say it, but I knew if Rob was still here, I knew Rob would come in with it. Dude, I'm telling you, stats say one thing. You watch him on the field,
But it's interesting when you talk about stats and we talk about regular season and postseason. You know, as a Yankee fan growing up, hey, what's up, Greg?
Greg, sorry I missed this one earlier.
Um, um, as a Yankee fan, I don't care what you do April, May, June, July. I care what you do in October because the Yankees go to the playoffs every year. I want to know, are my money players going to show up in the money time? And in the playoffs, that's the money time. And right now, like the Yankees are missing some of those players in the pitching that show up in the money time. But generally, you know, in the 90s, I wanted my money players, and that's how we won the championships. Our money players showed up. And with number 57, you called it out quite a bit last year that when you needed pass rush at certain times in the game, and you're getting lit up by a tackle or a running back blocking you, I need you to perform. You didn't perform. So what good are you to me when I need you at those moments in time? And I think that's kind of where number 57 came up with the name number 57. Because in January, in the rounds, I need a pass rush, right? And I know you've called out other players as well.
Yeah, he's one of a kind. I love Rob's term of the drive-by assassin. Stevie D. I'm sure you've had players in the past like this, but it just bugs me to the core to watch a player and him be pushed so far out of the play. I mean, really out of the play. Either the tackle is driving him back like 10 yards behind the quarterback or pushing him out towards the sideline. However, like a magnet, the quarterback, if he's pushed behind 10 yards behind the quarterback drops back even more. So he drops back like 10 yards so that now he's right next to him. Like most quarterbacks step up, right? Or the quarterback will roll out and he rolls out into it. It's like, and then he gets all excited that he gets to seconds. Like, no, that you didn't do that, right? Then you got guys like a Bosa or Von Miller back in the day or Rousseau that are coming to bring in pressure, and the quarterback gets it off just in the nick of time, and you're like, almost had that sack. Meanwhile, this slump is over here just standing on the side, getting a Gatorade, and the quarterback trips over his foot, and he's like, yes, I got a sack. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. Oh, that just kills me. Oh, well. All right. Who do you got this week?
We're on a bye.
Ooh, a little partying going on. Florida party. What I'm talking about. Oh, yeah. You got an extra time for extra time for some
Yeah,
confetti.
this is the week that I give the missus if she wants to do something on a Sunday, go somewhere and do something, whatever. We're good. We're
Just
good.
make sure you're back at 3:25, 4:25 Eastern, as the local team there for you will be coming to the 716. And
Oh,
so
it's Chiefs week. Okay.
it is. It is. And
Okay.
so this will be interesting. Um, what's funny about this, leading into this game, Stevie D, I wanted to run the table. Completely wanted to run the table, right? That didn't happen. Obviously, you lose one. Then I was of the mindset, I don't really care, right? I really don't care. I want to win. Yeah, I want to be careful. I want to win, but if I
Right.
lose, it's not the end of the world. But then you lost two, and now you find yourself behind the gun. Now I have to win, right? So this one has gone all the way through. Uh, so it's interesting. Um, you have a new Kansas City Chiefs team out there right now with Worthy, the felon in Rashid Rice. Pacheco, I think, is going to be out, but they have Kareem Hunt. Yeah, this is a team full of people on the police blotter, that's for sure. And now that I start to think about it, just saying state facts. That's it. That's all we do is state facts.
Jackson County. It's Jackson County. That's all we're gonna say. It's Jackson
Just
County.
just state facts. I'm curious if since this is CBS's main game, right? So you're getting everybody that's coming. What you're going to have Matt Ryan and
Oh,
Jason
they're coming.
Brown.
Okay. Okay.
The whole cast is coming in, right? Cower. Um, so I wonder if Taylor Swift is coming.
No, I don't think she goes to road games.
Oh, this is a big one.
Because
This is a big one.
I don't think she goes to the road games because she likes the comforts of having the first class treatment in Kansas City.
Oh,
Right, because it's the security guard. Everybody bends over backwards because it's Taylor Swift coming to Kansas City.
well, if she does come, you bet not put her in a suite. You better have her outside.
Right next to
Yeah,
Ryan Fitzpatrick.
that's what I'm talking about, Ryan. Open it up, baby. Open it up. All right, that's gonna wrap this one up. We appreciate everybody. Went a little longer. We're going longer and longer, Stevie D. In that
Hey,
next,
we're chopping up like we always do, right? I mean, there's no time limit on it.
this is true.
Allows people to come in and out.
Make
Right.
sure you give us a like, give us a subscribe, and we always love to hear from you. I keep hearing Jets Hangar is growing like a weed. Everybody just come in over there to Jets Hangar. Awesome. Uh, Enough with the fake Josh Allen pages joining Mafia Den. Uh, but we still do have a lot of people that are joining there, so I appreciate you guys there as well. So definitely the group's good content, so please continue to go to those. And as always, every Wednesday, check us out. We have rapid reaction. There will be a rapid reaction. We didn't have one this past week just because it was Carolina, but we will have one after the 425 game. That is for sure. Hopefully, we will be in a good mood. If we are not in a good mood, there could be some furniture being moved around here. You could see some screen shaking going on. Just letting you know, Joe Brady, you better get on your game. And Brandon Beam, we will not be on before the trade deadline. The trade deadline is Tuesday. I am telling you now, I expect, not one, I expect there to be a move.
Wow. All right.
Expect. If not, your name goes next to Sean McDermott as far as the candidates that need to go. So far I've given you a lot of leeway. So we'll see. All right. again, that's going to wrap this one up. Again, we do appreciate everybody and their participation. It's always fun. It's always good to talk to everybody out there. For my co-host Stevie D, I'm Vince. We'll talk to you soon.